Yeah. Confirm if you can hear me, please. Good morning.
Good morning.
Yeah, can we actually
Good
start
morning,
the
Adi. I
session?
can hear you.
Okay, thank you so much. Good morning, everyone. Good morning to our viewers. Today is actually the 6th of December, 2025. Just like we promised last week that this particular Saturday will continue with our knowledge sharing. That's Brazil Nigerian knowledge sharing. Um, if you have not forgotten, last week we discussed about collaborative pathways to enhance crop nutrition and then food security, which was delivered by our wonderful Mr. Abdurrahman Hagbim. And then we equally had the sugarcane quality, a powerful and wonderful presentation by Mr. Marina Gomina. And the last one was nourishing the soil, empowering the crop, in which we talked about how micronutrients and then the macronutrients could actually enhance the soil, thereby making our crop to come out good. So today we'll be moving on without wasting much of our time. So I want to use this medium to welcome each and every one to the second edition of the Brazil Nigerian Agricultural Knowledge Sharing Series. So proudly brought to you by Sophie Farms. Today, we continue our journey of bringing global agricultural knowledge to Nigeria, inspired by our team lead technical experience in Brazil. So we have three powerful speakers lined up, just like we had them last week. Each of us will be bringing practices and then solutions relevant to farmers, teachers, lecturers, students, and then agripreneurs in Nigeria. I'll be introducing our speakers one after the other, in which, after the introduction, the first speaker, Mr. Moraina Gomina, will actually, take the floor. So, introducing Mr. Moraina Gomina, our first speaker, is an agricultural expert, a passionate extensionist, and is very good about soil nutrition and input optimization. Today, we will speak on exploring fertilizers, the types, production process, efficiency, and future challenges. Kindly join me in welcoming him. Put that in the chat box, by welcoming him. Followed by our second speaker, Mr. Abdurrahman Abdullahi Agbe, who will be speaking. He's an agri-food researcher, yes, with a strong focus on food safety and preservation. His session is titled Emerging Food Conservation Methodologies. This was adapted from Brazil's innovative conservation approaches. And lastly, myself, Adeola Misbahuddin Bakare. I'm a passionate educator and agriculturist. Yes, I'm a crop scientist and an advocate for improved food systems. I'll be presenting on protein for prosperity, soybean management, and feed innovation. I'll be sharing lessons that can elevate feed production and farm profitability. So I want to take our notepad and our pen. We'll put one or two things down. And at the end of the three sessions, we'll take our questions. So the floor is open to Mr. Morena Gomez. Can you take us through first presentation? Thank you so much.
All right. Good morning, everyone. Welcome back to today's session on 6th of December 25. I'll be presenting on another topic, an interesting topic on exploring fertilizers. So I'll just share my screen so that we could start. All right, if you can see my screen today, all right, now the topic today is exploring fertilizers, types, production process, efficiency, and future
Your,
challenges.
your screen is not up yet, please.
Okay, let me see. Sorry for that. Sorry for the delay, please. Hope you all can see my screen now.
Yes, it's coming up.
All right. So today's topic is on exploring fertilizers, types, production process, efficiency, and future challenges, which will be presented by me, Gomina Morena, on 6th of December 2025. So the presentation will be covering the following. I will introduce you to the topic, types, fertilizer production process, fertilizer application method, how fertilizers work, and the science explained. Then we'll conclude. So moving on next, introduction. We all know that fertilizers are essential in modern agriculture because it helps to increase crop yield by replenishing nutrients in the soil and providing vital chemical elements, which we'll be discussing later. These fertilizers support healthy plant growth and food production worldwide. So understanding the types, the uses, impact of this fertilizer is crucial for students, farmers, scientists working to improve this crop productivity while also protecting the environment. Then this comes to this question: what are fertilizers? Yes, fertilizers are natural or synthetic substance that supply essential nutrients to plants, promoting their growth and development. They help to restore or enhance soil fertility, especially after large harvests have been depleted soil nutrients. So these are fertilizers. Fertilizers are either natural or synthetic substance that supply necessary nutrients, which we'll be moving on to discuss these nutrients. Then the next page, on the picture, you can see we have several fertilizers. See the image below, you can see we have several different fertilizers here. Some of these fertilizers we have, which are all synthetic, which we discuss about. Then let's move on to the next. The essential plant nutrients. In plants, there's at least 16 essential plant nutrients needed by these plants, with the main ones being nitrogen, potassium, carbon, hydrogen, oxygen, sulfur, calcium, and magnesium. However, these 16 essential nutrients is divided into two. We have the macro and one the micro. The macro are needed in large quantities, while the macro are needed in smaller amounts. Example of this macro includes nitrogen, phosphorus, potassium, calcium, magnesium, and sulfur, which are needed in large quantity by these plants. And we have these micronutrients, which are needed in small amounts. They include boron, zinc, copper, nickel, iodine, selenium, iron, and chlorine. So these are the essential nutrients needed by the plant for growth and plant development. Then let's move to the next ones. Type of fertilizers. We have two major types of fertilizers, which are organic fertilizers and chemical fertilizers or synthetic fertilizers. So, however, each type has its own advantage and disadvantage, and their use depend on crop needs, soil condition, and farming practices. Then let's talk about these chemical fertilizers or synthetic fertilizers. These chemical fertilizers are manufactured chemically and are often concentrated source of nutrients. Synthetic fertilizer provide rapid growth, release for quick plant uptake, and support fast growth plants. Immediately you apply these synthetic chemical fertilizers in your plants, immediately you see rapid growth because it releases the nutrients necessary very rapidly. We have this under these synthetics, we have the nitrogenous fertilizers, examples such as urea, ammonium nitrate, ammonium sulfate. We have the phosphatic fertilizers, which are the single supersulfates, the tri-supersulfates. Then we have the potassic fertilizers, examples are potassium chloride, potassium sulfate. Then we have the complex or mixed fertilizers. This complex or mixed fertilizer, the word mixed or complex means that they contain two or more nutrients, such as we know the NPK blends and the urea combined by some of the farmers during fertilization, applying of fertilization. Then let's move on to the next slide, which is see under type of fertilizers. Let's move on to the natural or organic fertilizers. These natural organic fertilizers are produced from plant or animal residues. They enrich the soil with organic matter and nutrients, improving soil structure and promote microbial activities. Examples of these natural fertilizers, we have the farm yard manure, which is a mixture of livestock droppings, urine, and bedding materials. We have the compost, which is the compost materials. They use the compost materials, kitchen waste, and garden waste. They have the green manures, which are gotten from this fertilizer is made from plant like legumes grown and plow into the soil to add nutrients, especially to get for nitrogen nutrients. Then we have a vermicompost. This vermicompost fertilizer type of organic fertilizers are organic matter decomposed by earthworm, which are rich in nutrients and beneficial microbes. However, manure and compost increase the soil ability to hold water and resist erosions, which is one of the advantages of organic fertilizers. And here we can see picture here under this slide. We can see that we can see the organic kind of fertilizers, and we can see the inorganic or synthetic kind of fertilizers. Then moving on next to the next slide, we'll discuss fertilizer production processes. Fertilizer production is a complex process that involves several types of equipment and process. The primary steps in fertilizer manufacturing include the following. In producing fertilizer, the synthetic kind of fertilizers, it totally goes through some kind of complex processes, but to just explain the primary, the easier or a simplified way how this fertilizer can be produced. The example of such fertilizers as that of the synthetic kind of fertilizers. The first thing is raw material preparations. This include grinding, mixing, screening the various raw materials that are used in the production of fertilizer. The raw materials are usually combination of organic, inorganic materials such as manure, compost, minerals, and chemicals. Then after then, they formulate. Why do they formulate these raw materials? Is because so that they could get correct proportion in order to create the desired type of fertilizers. This step involves adding unnecessary additives and preservative. Then the next process is mixing. After being formulated, they mix these organic materials together. Then the next thing is granulation. The fertilizer is placed into a granulator where it's heated and pressed into smaller pellets or granules. Example of, like, if you see fertilizers, you're going to observe that it is made in granular forms. So they have to go through process of granulation. Then drying. The granulated fertilizer is then placed in a dryer, heated to remove any excess moisture. Then fertilizer will go to process of screening. It will be screened. It will pass through series of screening in order to separate it into various particle size. Then the last process is packaging. The screened fertilizer is then packed into bags container for sale. That's all. That's just it. Actually, it's a complex process, but this is just a simplified way on how fertilizer is being produced in the industry. Then let's move to the next slide here. I don't have much time, which is fertilizer absorption method. We have close to five method which fertilizers can be applied in our farm. The first one is broadcasting, which involves spreading fertilizers evenly across the entire surface area. Is a process where mostly they use this in rice cultivation. After some weeks, you just apply a fertilizer, either NPK or urea. You just like pour it by spraying it across the feed of rice feed. Then we have band or side placement, which involve fertilizer being applied in band near the plant roots during sowing, which majorly during we use this kind of method in maize kind of cultivation. Then we have the top dressing, involve apply fertilizer on the soil surface for standing crops. We also use this in maize cultivation. Then we have this foliar spray, which is spraying dissolved or liquid fertilizer directly on the leaf. This is mostly for the micronutrient correction, where you just buy a fertilizer, your liquid fertilizer, you pour it in your knapsack sprayer and you spread on the leaves of the plant just for micronutrient correction. Then the other one, last one we have the fermentation, which involves spraying fertilizers through irrigation water. This involves when you just have a tank. When you have a tank, you just buy your liquid fertilizer, pour it into the tank, and there's already pipe in your probably maize feed. Then you just probably there's a system. Yeah, there's a system which we usually use drip kind of system. There, that's where you are going to use this fermentation kind of applying fertilizers to your crops. And here we have a lot of pictures here that indicated that broadcasting, spraying, placement, ring method, and this fermentation. Let's move to the next slide, which is efficiency. How fertilizer, the science explain. How fertilizer work, the science explain. We all know that fertilizers contain nutrients in forms that can readily absorb through their roots. Nutrient helps produce protein and chlorophyll. Nitrogen helps produce protein and chlorophyll. Phosphorus support energy transfer and root development, and potassium strengthen plant cells and improve resistance to disease. Proper fertilization enhance crop yield, improve food quality, and maintain soil fertility for future. How this science work? When you get your fertilizers like NPK, you apply it on your soil, on the soil. These nutrients are released and dissolved in soil water. Look at the picture here. There's a fertilizer here. When you apply it beside the plants, the nutrients are released and dissolved in water. Root absorb this nutrient in their mineral form. Then nutrients move into the plants, supporting growth and development. So that's how fertilizer works with its plants. Then, however, you have to note improper use of fertilizer can pollinate water bodies. So responsible application is vital. Let's quickly move to the last slide here. Conclusion. We should all know that fertilizer play a critical role in global security, sustainable agriculture, and human nutrition. Knowing the right type application method is vital for maintaining soil fertility, environmental health through responsible use. Advanced by scientific understanding, fertilizer enable better use and healthier ecosystem for future generation. Fertilizer support agriculture, garden, horticulture, forestry, and even household plants. They are directly linked to global food production, nutrition, and human health. However, in medicine, certain fertilizers support supply elements and pharmaceuticals. They are sustainable use is the way to combating hunger and protecting the ecosystem. Thank you. That's the last slide here. Next week, we are going to discuss how do we tailor these fertilizers for agronomic gratification. That's what I have for you this week. Thank you so much for listening to me. Um, Mr. Ade, you can take over now. Thank you so much.
Ah, thank you so much for the brilliant and wonderful presentation. Yes, every part of your presentation was insightful. So, while you were talking, you talked about the nutrients, like we have 16 essential nutrients that help our and it give us the nutrients and the macronutrients. Then you moved on to tell us about the types of fertilizer that we have, both the organic and the chemical fertilizer. And at the same time, you talked about the fertilizer processes. Yes, I was able to put down some things, and I was able to, to tap one or two things from what you have presented. And at the same time, we talked about the 5 methods of applying fertilizer. Yes, and you give wonderful, brilliant explanation on each of them. And then moving forward, you talked about how fertilizer works. Yes, you gave us the scientific explanation. So thank you so much for the wonderful presentation. Without wasting much of our time, we'll be moving on to the next facilitator, and that's Mr. Abdurrahman Abdullah. So, to our audience, in case you have one or two things, questions to ask, please put them down or you drop them on the comment section for us to see. If time still permit, we'll be able to attend to your questions before the end of the session, still session. So, Mr. Abdurrahman, are you ready to take us through topic before you?
Um, Thank you very much for that wonderful presentation, Mr. Morena. Um, Good morning, everyone. This is a very great opportunity for me to also, have presentation on the topic um, emerging food conservation methodologies. Emerging food conservation, technology. This is another wonderful topic for the week, which I believe I'm going to do to the best of my knowledge. And believe you me, just pay attention, and I'll be very, very brief as much as possible as I can. And I just hope that we will learn from whatever I'm going to, tell all of us. So, based on what I understood about food conservation methodologies, let's take for instance a tomato that is harvested in Kano and another one that is harvested probably somewhere in Brazil. One thing that is peculiar to them, or things that are peculiar to them, is the fact that they share the same fragile fates. They share the same fragile fates, the same sunlight, the same heat, and as well distance still their freshness before they ever met a buyer. Now, for instance, in Nigeria now, majority of our tomato sellers, right, they comes from the north. They come from the far north. So imagine taking perishable goods like tomatoes from far north, probably from Kano, from Kaduna, from Katsina, bringing them down to Lagos. There's a lot of distance there. At times, even with small cars, it takes 24 hours before you can get to Lagos. And taking these perishable goods might get spoiled, their cars might get spoiled along the way and the rest. So those are the things that they face, and that is why this topic is very, very important. Emerging food conservation methodologies. Now, one of the key point I want us to understand about this is that food loss is a silent drain, but new conservation technologies are rewriting these stories. So I believe if we invest in that value chain, it will help us to why food conservation, why does it matter? Now, there is a statistics that says Nigeria loses 40 to 50% of fresh produce post-harvest. That's the fact. 40 to 50%.
So while we await Mr. Brahman to join us back, I guess he had network issue. Am I right? Mr. Morana, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. I can hear you.
Okay, so while we await Mr. Abrahman to join us back, so we could actually, maybe try to engage ourselves with one or two things. I don't know, it's possible for me to just go on with my slide while he presents after my own presentation. So let me quickly put up my slide for our audience to see. So I'm coming. So for our audience, please, I just want us to understand that, just like we mentioned week, that this is more or less like knowledge sharing gotten from Brian, because our team was actually there for a workshop. So the knowledge that she brought, like, okay, it wouldn't speak well for us to hold this knowledge or the information, so that it would be best for us to share for our farmers, for the students, for agripreneurs, for them to all see. So this is why we are doing this. It's not as if all or some of these trials have been put into practice here, but then we want us to do it together, like where we do it, so other people will equally be doing it. So at the end of the day, we'll be on the same page. Farm, if you can see my screen, please. Can you see that? Mr. Mrina, can you see my screen?
No, I can't see your screen. I can't see your screen.
I guess Mr. Abrahman will be the one to accept this. And I don't know if he's back on the call. Anyways, let me just proceed since he's not on the call. Um, so I'll be presenting on this wonderful topic, protein for prosperity, understanding soybean nutrition.
Your screen,
Yes.
your screen is here now. I can see your
Oh,
screen now.
fine. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Yeah. So as I was saying, I said protein for prosperity, understanding soybean nutrition. So this more or less like a key, or this is more or less like key learnings from the Advanced School of Tropical Agriculture in Brazil, and that's a University of Sao Paulo. And this particular topic was actually adapted from a work of a professor, not just ordinary professor, a seasoned professor. Yeah. So we are trying to present some of the key insights we have gotten here. And by name, I am Adiola Misbahuddin Bakari from Sophie Farms and Investment Services Limited. Now, why soybean protein matters? That should be the question. Why does it? Why does the protein matters? If going by what we all know, and if not everyone knows, we have researchers here, we have students here that will have been taught theoretically that this soybean of a thing contains different nutrients, yes, has different components in it. But before we dive into that, soybean is one of the commonest crop that our farmers grow in Nigeria. I believe everyone knows about this. Even in the southwest, they are planting soybean. In the north, it's even we are equally presently we are in the season of soybean. Yes, soybean is just going on and off, like it's flowing everywhere. Everyone is, advertising about talking about their soybean, this and that. So this shouldn't be a problem to us. Unlike during the time we were talking about coffee, that we were not really familiar with it. But this soybean, everyone is familiar with soybean because we have different products from soybean. If you are not taking soybean custard, just like from Sophie Foods, yeah, we have soybean custard. It's something you could even try. If you try it, you wouldn't want to leave it again. Not just that, we have this one called is it a kind of the some people call it wara, some Yorubas call it beske, and I don't know what they call it in the north, but then it's a product that we get from soybean. It will be fried, then people take it to eat it. Not only that, they equally get oil from soybean. And going by what you could see on the screen, we have 17% of oil in this soybean.
Sorry to interrupt you, Mr. Ade. It
Okay,
seems you stopped sharing your screen.
I
Try
didn't.
again, please.
All right. Okay, I'll try that. I'll try that. I'm on it. Come. But if you can't, that's because Mr. Abrahman is not on the call. He's the one to help us put it up once it is being shared from our own end. So let me just continue. Once he's back, he should be able to, to help us the needful. So I hope you are still with me. Mr. Mraina, can you hear me, please? Oh, am I still on the call? Let me confirm for myself. Mr. Mraina. Okay, let me just proceed. So as I was saying, I was talking about the components of soybean, and I said this soybean contains 17%. Not only that, we have 35% protein, which is taking the highest component in soybean, followed carbohydrates, having 31%. Then the moisture could be about 10 to 13%. We have the hash. Now, I asked earlier that why soybean protein matters. Why does it matter? And for us to answer this question, this soybean protein matters because it affects many things in soybean. It affects the nutritional value. It means if your soybean, like if the protein is not enough, then the nutritional value will be what? It will be questionable. Not only that, soybean protein affects market price. The more the protein in your soybean, the better the price in the market. And at the same time, the soybean protein affects feed quality for livestock. Yes, not just the human beings, not we humans that take this soybean alone. The animals equally feed on that. Yes. Soybean is part of, what they use to formulate feed for livestock. Another thing is that soybean protein affects oil extraction efficiency. It means if the protein quality is poor, then the content of oil you get from your soybean will be very, very low. And lastly, the soybean protein affects food security for communities. Yes, this is what we have been advocating for. Food security everywhere. So soybean protein is part of it. It's part of what, could actually bring about food security for our people. So, what is the insight that we got from Brazil? I want us to understand that the experts stressed that protein content is not accidental. Yes, this protein content wasn't just there, and it's not something you'll be like, okay, after planting, I should just be expecting that my soybean will have high content of protein. No, it's not that. They made us understand that it is shaped by the varieties you plant. That's talking about the genetics. It talks about the nutrient supply, the nutrient in your soil. It talks about the water. Yes, we'll get to know in the next slide. Maybe the water should be, maybe you should have more or less water. And lastly, farm management. How does all this put together affect the protein content in our soybean? In the next slide, we'll get to know that. Now, what's the key message here? The key message is that better protein will give about better income and what? Better nutrition. Now, what Brazilian experts taught us about soybean protein? What did we get from them? First, they talked about the genetics. The variety used. That's the cultivar choice. If you are planting soybean, you don't just go to market and get your seed. You go to market to ask for the best variety that will give you high protein content. Different varieties express different protein potentials. That's what we need to know. Not just that we can just plant anyhow. Not just that, okay, let's go to a neighboring farmer. Okay, could you just give me the part of what you planted last year, this and that, and you open the soil and you put it there? No, you look for the best varieties that could give you what you are looking for, and that's what the protein content, because we already mentioned what the protein content will affect. Another thing is this: the nitrogen fixation and rhizobia health. Yes, healthy noodles gives about higher amino acid formation. If you have not forgotten, you get to understand that, or you should know that soybean is the only crop that gives you the 8 essential amino acid that you can get in egg, you can get in meat, you can equally get in your fish. 8 essential amino acid. No other crop could give you this. Yes, no other crop could give you this. This is why soybean is very, very what? Essential. Not only that, the expert equally taught us about the sulfur and the micronutrients. Yes, we do not always need, many a time we don't always take cognizance of, applying, what is it called, micronutrients, or applying sulfur as well. Most of what we apply is NPK, NPK, NPK. Although our urea fertilizer contains sulfur. Yeah, if you are making use of urea fertilizer, yes, we will understand that, oh, sulfur is what is included in the soil. Sulfur is in the soil. Why? Because we have 2 essential amino acid that is sulfur based, and that's methionine and lysine, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, methionine and lysine. The one of tryptophan and the likes, they are for what is it called? They are for other 8 essential amino acid. But the methionine and lysine, they are sulfur containing amino acid. Sulfur is the protein element critical for amino acid. Yes, let's take note of that. Meaning that while doing the planting, always ensure you do what? You apply urea, which is sulfur containing fertilizer. Zinc and molybdenum, which are part of the trace elements that are needed for what? Nitrogen fixation. They are equally, they should equally be taken cognizance of, as highlighted by the experts in Brazil. Not only that, they equally stressed about the environmental and agronomic conditions. Yes, what should be the condition of the environment where you are planting your soybean? They talk about the heat. It shouldn't be at the peak period of the heat. No. But then they require high temperature, but shouldn't be at the peak period of the heat. Why? Because they tend to suffer. Not only that, water stress. You don't have to stress your soybean while planting them. They require high rainfall. Yes, they require optimum rainfall, optimum water for them to do well, for them to have that required protein content. And at the same time, the soil fertility influence final protein levels. Yes, most of most of the soil we cultivate in Nigeria, you know, we tend to do continuous cropping. Like we keep cropping, keep farming the same land over and over and over again. What will happen? The nutrient will have been depleted when it gets to a certain period. So we need to take cognizance of that soil fertility as well. Now, what is the focus of Brazil? I mean, the expert there. What they do for their farmers is that everything there revolves around helping the plant make more amino acid. That's why they've highlighted these 5 conditions that we need to meet if we really want to have that protein content. I mean, high protein content. So the next slide, what we actually observed and learned in Brazil. Please, let's take this very serious. The experts there, they demonstrated how inoculation with quality bradyrhizobium increases nitrogen fixation. Yes, this is very, very new to us, this bradyrhizobium, because we be like, what, which kind of inoculant is this? Myself, I've never used this kind of inoculant, but then this is like telling our researchers what they could do for our farmers. This is telling them that yes, we don't they have a lot to do for our farmers. They are the one that will do this, they are the one that will help the farmers. Most of our farmers are there cultivating for us. They are doing the agronomic practices. But then our scientists, our researchers, they should be there and be preparing this inoculant for the farmers for us to have a better yield. Not only that, they equally demonstrated that poor nodulation leads to low protein soybeans, of course. Even if plants look green, it means you may have a very good vegetative growth of your soybean, but that doesn't really mean the protein content will be very high. What you need to look into, to look after is what? The nitrogen, the root nodulation. Another thing they demonstrated is the timing of sulfur application. 8 is very, very critical. Very, very critical. They need to apply this during the R5 and R7 stages. What do I mean? You know, the protein concentration is highest when plants avoid stress. Yes, when they avoid stress, when? During R5 and R7 stages. I will explain this R5. This R5 is like the stage when the grain is coming up. Yeah, when they are coming up, that's the R5 stage. The R6 is when the grain is filling up, and I mean filling up in the pods. Yeah, and then the R7 stage is when they are attaining maturity. So during this period, you tend to avoid, you know, make sure that your soybean avoids stress, water stress, heat stress, nutrient stress, everything stress. They should avoid it. Why? Because that's the period they are, you know, bringing out the yield, and that's what we do. We will harvest. We won't harvest the leaf. We will harvest the root. We will harvest the stem. What we are after is what is the grain. And during this period, we need to take cognizance of this, like take it very serious and do the needful. And lastly, they demonstrated that precision planting increases uniformity and protein consistency, meaning that you don't just plant. You don't just plant during the peak period of heat. You don't just plant when there is less rain, but you do what? You try to, you know, to precise that, okay, you make a precision planting, ensuring that everything will be well balanced up and you have a very good harvest at the end of the day. Now, what's the key impression? Small changes in nitrogen biology make big differences in protein. So now, applying these lessons to Nigerian conditions. We've been saying this. Let's just add to what we've been talking about. Nigerian soybean farmers face similar challenges that we all know. We have low soil sulfur, of course, due to long-term cropping and leaching. Yes, the sulfur in the soil will have been depleted. Another thing is we have poor quality or expired inoculants in the market. Do we even have one at all? I'm asking, I don't know. It's something we could, you know, this is like knowledge sharing. If you have this at all, put that in the chat box. Do we have them? Is it not something you have that you have the expired inoculant? But if you do not have it, how would you have expired one? How would you even have the poor quality? Another thing is the late planting leading to high heat stress during grain field. Yes, we should just try as much as possible to avoid planting late. And then lastly, is that minimal awareness of micronutrient needs. Yes, we talked about it last week. Our farmers need to always include micronutrient, no matter how small it is. You know, it is micro. Yes, they are needed in very minute quantity. In that wise, we can just buy small and apply to what? To our soil, and this will help our crop. Now, what this means is that Brazil's insights provide a roadmap for boosting both yield and protein value in Nigeria. Both yield, yes, and protein value. What most of us is after is the yield. That okay, after the end of the day, let's try and measure, let's try and weigh, let's try and do this. Okay, 100 kg, 200 kg, 1 ton, millions of tons. Then we take them to what? Take them to the companies. It shouldn't just be the yield, but what? We should always equally ensure that the kind of soybean we are producing, they equally have high protein content. Although, do not forget that we haven't run the trials yet. Just like I mentioned earlier, that these lessons is just to guide us, improve our practices. We aim to adapt at Sophie Farm. So equally, our farmers out there, they too should try as much as possible to to do this in their next planting season. Now, before we put the presentation into a close, what are the recommendations inspired by Brazil? Here are the most practical insights we can start promoting in our various places. First, we choose varieties known for higher protein potential. And the Brazilian have talked about the genetics. Look for the better one. Then use effective rhizobium inoculation. Ensure strong nitrogen fixation. I mean, this rhizobium, this inoculant will ensure strong nitrogen fixation. And do not forget, we mentioned that without good nitrogen fixation, even without good root nodulation, even if your soybean is looking green, it doesn't bring about high protein content. Now, do not skip sulfur in any in any form. As much as possible, just try between 10 and 20 kilogram per hectare. Okay, between 10 and 20 kilogram per hectare can dramatically improve protein. So apply some trace element like molybdenum and zinc in small doses. Then you should avoid stress during flowering and grain fill. So I'll be putting this to an end by asking you this question. Have you used inoculant before? If yes, put down your in the comment section. Tell us about your experience. Then, if you have applied sulfur, let us know. Is it sulfur or NPK or both? And then, what are your biggest challenge to improve soybean? And then, how can we equally train our learners to get to know about all this? So, thank you so much for uh, listening to me. Then I'll be using this medium to call on Mr. Brahman to take us through or to continue from where he stopped earlier. Thank you. Can you hear me? Okay, you can hear me. Then proceed. Proceed. You can hear me. Proceed. Maybe it's our own network. Let me log out and log in again.